Operations management is an area of management concerned with overseeing, designing, and controlling the process of production and redesigning business operations in the production of goods or services. It involves the responsibility of ensuring that business operations are efficient in terms of using as few resources as needed, and effective in terms of meeting customer requirements. It is concerned with managing the process that converts inputs in the forms of materials, labor, and energy into outputs in the form of goods and/or services. Operations management is important to all businesses, whether you are selling a good or providing a service. Every business wants to do it in the most efficient way possible while still satisfying the customer. All companies have competitors, and with any industry, it is competitive where they need to provide the highest quality product or service at a reasonable price. Also, every business wants the highest level of production possible while maintaining efficiency. Production is measured as total output divided by total input. A productivity ratio is important because it could be used for one production line, one location of a business, or an entire company. Let's look at how important goods and manufacturing is to a company. All manufacturers are set out to perform the same basic functions. Those are to transform resources to finished goods. To perform this nowadays, companies must continually strive to improve operational efficiency. They must fine-tune their production process to focus on quality, to hold down the cost of materials and labor, and also to eliminate all costs that add no value to their finished product. Some examples of relevant manufacturing businesses are Apple, by having their final product sold in the EIU bookstore, or Gavina Graphics, where most people on campus get their customized t-shirts. Being efficient as a service is as important as a good, but it involves different aspects such as being accessible to your customers and spending more time on delivery to your customer. Some examples of companies who pride themselves on their good service are Jimmy John's, Comcast, and Netflix. One of the most essential parts of operations management is the supply chain. The supply chain is the foundation for all operations management activities. This begins with the customer's demand, so raw materials can be converted into products they ultimately want. Every step of the supply chain is important and adds value to the end product. This process goes from raw materials transformed to a product and delivered to a distributor and finally purchased by the customer. Let's take a look at an example of this. Let's use bread as an example. It begins with wheat growing on farm, then is transferred to the factory to be mixed with the correct ingredients to actually make bread, and then it is delivered to the stores where the customer will purchase the bread. Clearly, the supply chain is an essential part to every business. Another part of operations management is forecasting demand. Forecasting is using a method from past data to predict the future. We use the past demand of a product in order to guess the demand for months or years to come. This helps ensure that the company has enough inventories available to meet the demand. Forecasting also helps the company see if they have too much inventory if demand is low. This helps keep customers happy by not running out of their products and keeping costs low by not having excess inventory, which increases costs. Some common approaches for forecasting demand are linear trend and seasonality. Linear trend shows a definite trend of data concerning demand. If demand is steadily increasing or decreasing, we can use a linear trend mile to show a typical line formula, which is y equals mx plus b. This will let us draw a future line for the upcoming months to predict what will happen. Seasonality shows how product demand differs from certain times of the year. This gives companies the opportunity to produce new products for the season that aren't high on demand. Forecasting is definitely a key aspect to have in every business. Quality control makes the supply chain and forecasting possible. Quality control is monitoring and maintaining an acceptable level of quality in the customer's eyes. This includes making sure that errors in production are limited while consistently meeting customers' expectations. For example, take Frito-Lays. If the chips don't taste good and are stale or packaged wrong, customers are not going to be satisfied, and therefore the company is not controlling the quality of their products well enough. To measure an acceptable level of errors is by using control charts. These charts tell us if a business is statistically in control of their manufacturing or business process. Usually 3 standard deviations away from mean lay the upper and lower control limits, and the data should stay within those 2 lines. If anything goes beyond the upper or lower control limits, the company does not have their quality control under control. Let's take a real-life example of a company that uses great operations management. Apple does a great job of making sure that all of their customers are always satisfied with their service and products. Apple tries to make their process more efficient by having each salesperson at every Apple store have an iTouch where the customer is able to swipe their credit card right there without having to wait in line at the register. This allows customers to get in and out of the store much faster and are more happy that the process went so fast since Apple stores are always so crowded. Another way Apple uses operations management is their supply chain. Apple has their suppliers of the parts necessary for making their products, which are then shipped to the factories to be manufactured and packaged in China for their products to be made, but they aren't designed there. They are designed here in the US and California. The finished products are then shipped to Apple stores all across the US for the customer to purchase them. The demand for Apple products is usually high due to that everyone just wants to be an Apple user because that's the in thing to be right now. They control their demand by releasing certain products at the right time of the years. For example, Apple introduces new products right before Christmas time because that is their busiest time of year, and they know they are going to make a lot of profit during that time period. Apple also prides them on quality control because having the highest quality of a product is very important to Steve Jobs.